DoorDash is absolutely worse than crack. Now, do I believe that? Of course not. But honestly, I think they are pretty close. If you had to make a list of the addictions that will make you go broke the quickest, I truly believe DoorDash will be near the top of the list. Back before I had a job and I was just getting allowance from my parents, 25 bucks a week, you tell me if that's high or not. I remember I would save up for multiple weeks. I had this one place I really liked to get chicken and waffles from. And I would deliver the chicken and waffles to my house. I believe the chicken and waffles were $16 by themselves. And with all the delivery fees and taxes and tips added up, it would be 40 bucks to get $16 chicken and waffles delivered to my house. And I would do it every time I could because those chicken and waffles smacked. They were so good. But honestly, I feel like this is more of a commentary on enshittification, really. If you're somehow unfamiliar with enshittification, it's basically the idea that everything around us, enshittification and slopification, everything around us has become worse, more generic, more mass-produced, mainly for the sake of profit. And I think the worst part of it is how normalized it is. Most people order DoorDash, or at least know somebody or multiple people that do order DoorDash. Now listen, you're a single parent, you're working 3 jobs just to make ends meet, I understand. Get that DoorDash, time is money. Your time is more valuable than the money that you're spending on DoorDash. I understand that. But if you're like me and you're a bum, or if you were like me, a bum with no job, I literally was only getting DoorDash so that I would not have to leave the house, right? Oh goodness, there's a wasp. Ah! And I have a chicken burrito sitting on the table. Oh no. But it's so normalized to be wasting your money on DoorDash. And DoorDash cuts out all of the friction of getting that food. And in that time I saved, in that friction I saved, getting the food delivered to my house, you know what I did with that time? I scrolled Reels. That's what I did. I saved that time so that I could spend more time scrolling Reels. Isn't that a perfect transaction? I get to spend more money. I'm basically paying to scroll Reels, essentially, is what I'm doing. And even with that, actually adding on to that, I think Reels genuinely might be one of the single worst things that has ever happened to the human race. That's not true, but it's pretty bad. I can definitely name a few things worse. But Reels is, I believe, one of the most pressing and not talked about genuine addictions that many people have. And maybe they don't even realize that it is an addiction, because a lot of the people that I know that do scroll on Reels, they'll say it's not really that bad, they just do it when they're bored. And they don't realize that that is the problem, is they do it when they're bored. I remember I was at one of my friend's birthday parties, and we were all standing up, we were all about to start dancing, and instinctually, one of my friends, he got bored for maybe 0.5 seconds. He pulls his phone out, starts scrolling Reels. I was like, dude, we're literally at a birthday party. There has been 5 seconds between when we were sitting, eating dinner, and 5 seconds in between when we're gonna start dancing. And he pulled his phone out to start scrolling Reels. He looked at me, he was like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I didn't even mean to do that, it just happened. And that really stuck with me, because before, I had already quit Reels. I had decided this is a waste of time. There's so many better things I could be doing with this time. Honestly, I saw one video that made me really rethink what I was doing with scrolling Reels. I saw something saying that if you are 15, I don't remember the exact number, something like this. If you're 15 and you have 3 or 4 hours on screen time, and you live until you're 70, think about it. 4 hours every day. That is 1/6 of your day. So if you are going to live 60 more years, you are going to spend 10 of those years. 10 years on your phone. And if those 4 hours is mainly on Reels, you are going to be spending near 10 years on Reels. Are you serious? You see the gravity of this, right? Because Reels is the most pointless thing in existence. You gain nothing from it. Now, I had a conversation with one of my friends about this, and he said, well, I actually learned that I really like fishing from Reels. Reels introduced me to fishing. I thought that was kind of funny, reel fishing. The more you know. But that is a very specific case where that can happen. Most people sit back and passively watch reels. Now, my friend who did this, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. He is not an ordinary human being. There are very few people on this earth that are like that man. So I think he is an outlier. I think for most people, even if they see something cool that they might like on reels, it will just be passively absorbed into their brain. Not even absorbed, passively pass through their brain, in one ear, out the other. It is the exact exemplification of in one ear, out the other. So you spend your time doing nothing. When you are on reels, you have decided that that time is time where you have nothing better to do. So after I deleted reels from my phone, after I got rid of Instagram and TikTok and all that short form content, I would notice whenever I would get bored for 5 seconds, walking home, sitting in the dentist's office, I would instinctually reach in, grab my phone, swipe, click on folder, swipe, click on where Instagram used to be. And it wasn't there. And I would realize, man, I didn't even consciously think about that. It just happened. So you have essentially rewired your brain to, as soon as you feel any sense of boredom, you just reach right for your phone, right? And that's not good. I initially used to think about boredom as something that happens when there's nothing better to do. It's just an unpleasant feeling that's telling you you should be doing something, right? And I didn't see the value of that. Now I do. And I've tried to reclaim boredom into my life, or rework boredom to work for me, essentially. So now, if I don't have much planned for the day, if I know I'm gonna have a lot of time and it's likely that I'm gonna get bored, I'll plan something to do. I'll plan an outing with friends, or I'll say, okay, I'm gonna go to the YMCA and I'll play basketball today. Or I'm gonna practice this hobby. Or even one day I said, I'm gonna go to Five and Below and I'm gonna get a tripod and I'm gonna start making YouTube videos. This never would have happened if I had reels to fall back on every time I got bored. To me, short form content is the antithesis of personal development. Because without that time to think about yourself, think about what you wanna do, you will not do anything. I've been trying to come up with an analogy for this, so bear with me if it isn't good. I imagine every human as a sponge. We'll say my hand is this sponge, and your life is water droplets falling onto the sponge. Now, those water droplets do not make the sponge wet until they soak in. So, if every time they're about to soak in, you keep adding more water, it's gonna wash away the old water. And that's just gonna sit on the surface too. You need to give it time where there's no more water being washed across the surface of the sponge, and give it time to actually soak in. And that is boredom. That is when every conversation, every conflict, every hobby, every choice, every pressing matter, every deep repressed idea or experience that you've had can come to the surface, and you can soak it in and let it actually become part of you. Because otherwise it just sits on the surface, and you can watch it sit on the surface. You can watch it glimmer around and be on your phone and watch as useless information washes away all of your worries and problems and all of your hopes and dreams, and you can just sit in your numb little state of doing nothing. And that is, I believe, the single worst thing that you can do for yourself. Ever since I have deleted reels, I truly do believe I have become a much more in tune person with who I am and who I want to be. Because I actually spend time with my thoughts. I actually spend time thinking. When I was still on reels, I want to really thank my English teacher for this. She gave the whole class a challenge. She said, do something by the end of this school year that you've been wanting to do for a little while. Or I want everybody in this class to have one task that they'll complete by the end of the school year. And my task was get down to 1 hour of screen time. Now, I would say my screen time is between 1.5 to 2 hours, but none of it is on entertainment. It's all on messages, the camera app, when I'm recording my videos, photos, stuff like that. And I was talking to my English teacher, and I said, when I still had reels and I was still spending a lot of time on my phone, I would have a lot of trouble falling asleep. Because I would get into my bed and I would just think and 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 think, and I couldn't stop thinking So I started taking melatonin. I would take 5 to 10 milligrams, which is a lot. If you don't take melatonin, you're supposed to take 1 to 3 milligrams. That's a healthy amount. But I would take 5 to 10 because I just couldn't stop thinking. And I realized when I'm in my bed with nothing, that is the only time I think. Every other time, I'm taking in new information and I'm not actually letting what's in my head seep in. The only time I was doing that was when I was in my bed, staring at my ceiling in the darkness, trying to fall asleep. So since I've gotten rid of that, since I've gotten rid of reels and more short form content, I have so much more time to let everything else sink in. And with that sinking in, I don't need to spend all that time not falling asleep in my bed and getting mad and being like, oh my God, I'm gonna have 4 hours of sleep tonight. This is so bad. That was a little zesty, but I believe that quitting short form content may be the single best thing I have ever done for my life. Quitting all of these, God, I don't even want to say it like this because it sounds like, I'm just gonna say it. Quitting all of these modern poisons like short form content, porn, DoorDash, and even other things that people have just accepted as normal, like teens using any sort of recreational drugs. These are not normal. These should not be normal, acceptable things. Now, I'm not trying to be like a cop narc and say, oh, you can't have any fun, but all the people that are telling you that these things are bad, they're not trying to ruin your fun. They are trying to help you. And I am trying to help you and me, because I wish I had known this beforehand. Quitting reels or quitting short form content and all those other things has turned me into a much better person, I believe. It's turned me into a much more mindful person. I spend a lot more time, because I just have a lot more time, thinking about myself, thinking about what I want to be doing, discovering new hobbies I didn't know I had, revisiting things that I thought I was done with and discovering I love them. I play basketball very often. I can't now because I recently dislocated my shoulder. But anyway, I've been playing basketball so much and I love it. And I used to play it in elementary school, but then I stopped mainly because I wasn't very good. I'm not gonna lie, that was the main reason. But with all this extra time where I haven't just deemed it as, it's dead time, I'll just watch reels to pass the time. With all this extra time that I've now reclaimed in my life, essentially I've reclaimed my life. I've reclaimed so many hours of my day. I'm able to do so many more hobbies. I've been making YouTube videos. I've been fixing glasses. I've been doing projects. I've been playing basketball. I've been cooking. I have been doing so much more and discovering so much more about myself and being so much more of the person that I want to be and doing more things that I want to do. I talked to one of my friends at work, and he's a little younger than me, so I'll give him a pass for this, but we were talking about our summers, and I was like, how was your summers? He said it was pretty good. And I said, what have you been doing to keep yourself, because we had talked before and he said he likes to keep himself busy. He likes to keep himself busy, but also chill a little bit. And I said, well, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy this summer besides travel? And he had to think about it for a second. He was like, I mean, I've been going to the gym. Now, last summer, I did the same thing. My schedule every day would be wake up at 12:30, 1, go to the gym, come home, play video games, goon 100 times, go to bed, right? That was not something that I saw an issue with at the time, honestly, because I was having fun. I was thinking, okay, summer's for having fun. This is just fine. But now this summer, where I've decided to actually use it to do things that I want to do and not just skip through it, not treat it like time that needs to be treated like, and not treat it like time that isn't anything. Every minute is an opportunity to do something, I've learned. And now that I'm treating every open hour I have as an opportunity to do something, I have been doing and I feel like I've been living so much more. Before, it felt like I was existing, I'm not gonna lie. But now it really feels like I'm living, man. And I don't care if that sounds corny, honestly, because it really does feel like that. It felt like before I was just skipping through time because it felt like that was just filler time. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't at school. I wasn't at work. It was just filler time, stuff in between. But that filler stuff in between is what you live for. Now that I spend my time, my more commonly known as filler time. When I say more commonly known as filler time, I mean times when I'm walking to the bus or waiting at the bus stop. I don't wait at the bus very much. I have a car now. But if I'm waiting in the doctor's office or waiting at the bus stop, I just sit. I don't even look at my phone. I just think. I have these micro boredoms in my day. So when I'm saying about boredom, you don't need to have just 3 hours where you stare at a wall and do nothing. You should have these micro boredoms where it doesn't feel bad, because boredom doesn't need to feel bad. Boredom doesn't need to feel bad at all. Anything, boredom should feel great. For me, it does. It gives me a time to just think. I remember right when I got home yesterday from work, I was sitting in my car and I had paused the music, the windows were up, the AC was off, and I just realized how silent it was. And I was about to get out of the car. I had my hand on the handle, and I just thought, you know what? Let me sit here for a few minutes. I sat there for a few minutes thinking about what I wanted to think about. And it was beautiful. And today at work, during lunch, I hate to say this because it makes it sound like I'm trying to say I'm better than others, but I'm not. At the end of the day, I'm not. I feel like I'm at the baseline, and everybody else, I feel like I've said this before, I'm at the baseline, everybody else is actively digging themselves down into a hole. Or not everybody else, but a lot of other people are digging themselves down into a hole where they're just existing instead of living. I'm not saying you can't have happy moments when you're existing instead of living, but I'm saying if you're living instead of existing, you're gonna be having a lot more fun. A lot more constantly, you're gonna feel a lot more fulfilled. Right before summer hit, it was senior year, and I was feeling incredibly unfulfilled because for most of high school, school was really my goal. That was what I focused on. That was what I spent a lot of my time on, as you should, right? But I came to realize that that was all I had. When my grades didn't matter because it was the end of senior year, I just felt blank. Not sad, not depressed, just nothing. Just felt like I was going through the motions. And nothing in my life made me sad, but just feeling like I wasn't doing much, feeling I was just biding my time until the next thing happened was a terrible feeling. An absolutely horrible feeling. And feeling that feeling, instead of drowning it in reels or porn or DoorDash, not drowning it in those things let me face it and actually face the root problem, right? The root cause. And it made me find more things in my life to be passionate about, more things in my life to live for, really. God, that's a bar. Man, I'm gonna have to write that down. Low key, no kiddy, no cat. But finding more things that I wanted to live for in my life was incredibly important for me to become who I am today. And I'm not some superhuman, obviously, right? Yeah, no shit, I'm not no superhuman. But I thought that would be so much more difficult than it was. You don't have to find some super extravagant experiment that you want to spend the next 10 years doing. It could be something small. It can be something really small. Like the other day I went to Walgreens and I got new nose pads for my glasses because they had broken off. And getting that was a small achievement and it felt great. Find more things in your life to accomplish. Take more time. Be slower. You don't need to rush through life. And if you have nothing better to do, do nothing. I have been realizing that more and more. If you have nothing better to do, do nothing. You don't have to do something. But if you want to do something and you know you're going to have nothing better to do, then do something. That's fine. That is completely fine. But filling up that space with something you don't really care about, like even YouTube, even longer form content like YouTube, I feel is an issue because it numbs you in a sense to that discomfort of being bored and not having something to do. When I was younger, I liked to watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of popular MMOs, popular MMOs and Sunday. That was my jam. I love those two. The Lucky Block videos. If you know what I'm talking about, you know ball. EBK, bro, you know ball. Elite ball. No. Anyway, my dad always had an issue with that. Whenever he caught me watching YouTube, he would get mad at me. And he would say, Nico, I told you we're going to watch TV shows. And I didn't see the difference between the two, really. I just thought they were both entertainment. I'm watching something either way. Why does it matter? But more and more as I get older now, I realize that YouTube is just filling your time. If you're watching a TV show, you have intent behind it. It's something that you're choosing. When I started watching Dexter, funnily enough, Dexter is a show that did this for me. This was one of the first shows I've been watching since I stopped Instagram or stopped short form content. And I would be excited to go home and watch Dexter. It wasn't just something where, okay, I've got nothing better to do, I guess I'll watch YouTube. It was something that I had a goal with. I had a goal to watch Dexter. I would go home and I would be ready. I'd be hyped to watch Dexter, right? And it's made me realize that you need to do things with intent. I need to do things with intent. Everybody does. That is how you feel fulfilled, is when you put your motivation and intent towards something and you accomplish that goal. Maybe that's just me, but I can't imagine how that would not be universal, right? When you're watching YouTube or watching Reels, you're putting your motivation and intent up and you're letting anything grab it and pull it in any which direction. There's no goal with that. You're just letting your intent be grabbed and taken and controlled by something else. The For You page is literally telling you what you like. And I'm not trying to demonize it and say, oh, you can't watch YouTube ever. It's made by the devil. Susan Wojnarowski. She's like Hitler. Not gonna say that. But I believe that we have to treat YouTube for what it is. It's just a time filler, a time waster, really. And watching TV shows will always be less productive and worse, in my opinion, than doing something you're really passionate about, like learning a skill or cooking a delicious meal or maybe even making a YouTube video if that's your hobby. Going and engaging in your hobbies and passions should always be your number one goal, besides making enough money to live. But besides that, right? Diving further into who you are, whether that be introspection, taking time with yourself, or discovering more about what you like, or discovering more about what you like, right? I knew I liked basketball, but the more I played it, the more I realized what I liked about it. I realized that I liked how much of a dance it is. I realized that I like how many different skills there are to learn and how those things interact with each other and how every player plays differently even though they all have the same goal. So, with all of this being said, take your time. Take time to learn about yourself, learn about what you want, learn about what you need. Don't let these frictionless time wasters, don't let these things that get rid of friction in your life control you. Like DoorDash, for example. It gets rid of the friction of having to go and get your food. It gets rid of having to wait, gets rid of having to drive. It's just right at your house. Instagram Reels gets rid of all the friction of entertainment. You don't have to choose what you watch. It's perfect. It chooses for you. You just get to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You need friction in your life. You need friction and conflict, and you need to overcome it. That is what will give you meaning and purpose. And I cannot express just how lucky I am, how lucky I feel to have realized that seemingly earlier than a lot of other people I know. It feels like I really get to live more life than a lot of the people I know. I'll ask them what their hobbies are, and it's just blank stares. Gym, maybe one person will say gym, 1 to 2 people will say gym. Or I'll get a lot of I used to doesn't mean anything. I used to means you lost that passion for one reason or another, or maybe you didn't even lose that passion. It was just doused by the fact that you could get a feeling of happiness much easier with something that takes less effort. So don't be afraid to give effort. Don't be afraid to have intent and motivation towards something and achieve that goal. With all that being said, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell.